Yep, looks good. Let's get started. Let's go ahead, Miles.
All righty. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining today. Let me get my advanced clicking technology ready here. Oh, look at that. It works. Thank you for joining our Synoptic workshop today, understanding capabilities of Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. I'm Miles Feinberg. I'm your moderator here. I'm here with Victor Dirksen, who appears maybe to be in the same room as me. He's going to be our subject matter expert today, guiding us. Before we get into his context here, hang on. I've been with Synoptic for 6 years, and I'll tell you, in that time, I've seen us more than triple our staff size to more than 1,000. One of our biggest challenges as we grew was putting in place processes, KPIs, incentives, and really a culture of customer satisfaction. Those net promoter scores and customer satisfaction metrics you see here are actually the result of all that. It's actually remarkable because so many firms in our industry really fail to complete projects on time, or sometimes, ever, let alone on budget. I have multiple places to click here. So we've invested extremely heavily in the entire Microsoft technology stack. So we're about, obviously, to deep dive into Microsoft Business Central, where we have a gold competency, as we do broadly for Dynamics 365. Frankly, our Microsoft relationship is so strong that we have quarterly business reviews that Microsoft conducts with us. And we're also audited by them annually to retain our Azure Expert MSP status. We just finished the re-audit with them. There's less than 100 Azure Expert MSPs in the world. So Microsoft has made some really smart decisions about their ERP platforms. And I just want to go through some of those that validate why we're all here. Rather than each having its own limited reporting tools, they all leverage the Power Platform. Probably many of you recognize Power Apps and Power BI. It's the most, whoa, sorry about that, guys. It is the most feature-rich platform you can get. Power BI skills are readily available, so that's a really compelling value proposition right there. Microsoft platforms are also incredibly mature, and the cloud versions, essentially they run in Azure, so they're very scalable. There is D365 F&O for enterprises, and the Business Central platform that we'll cover today that is more nimble and affordable. There's a huge marketplace for add-ons, things like performance reviews, barcode generators, expense report managers, and many of them are also tailored to specific vertical industries and business. You don't have to call for license pricing, talk to sales or something like that. It's all published, although you may need some guidance in that area, but it's clear and transparent. Microsoft has armies working on getting customer feedback and continuously improving the offering. And you can, all of these you can run in the cloud. So with that, Victor, why don't you kind of go over just how Business Central fits into the whole ecosystem?
So Business Central, if you look at the history of Microsoft and their ERP packages, they ended up with 4 around the year 2000, 2001. And those were rebranded as GP, NAV, SL, and AX. And over the years, Microsoft tried to figure out how they could consolidate those to reduce some redundancy so they could increase efficiencies in the programming and get a better product offering. And what happened was in 2018, they took 2 of their ERP solutions and moved them into the cloud, what we refer to as a SaaS environment, where it's software as a service. So all of the infrastructure is managed by Microsoft on their Azure cloud platform, and then software is leased essentially with a monthly fee per month. And so the GP product, Dynamics GP, what used to be called Great Plains, is actually end of life. is going to have support up to, I think, 2028, and it will not be supported anymore. Same thing with SL, although I'm not sure what the end date is on that. Dynamics Nav then got rebranded as Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, and AX got rebranded as Dynamics Finance and Operations or Supply Chain, depending on which level of functionality you needed on those two products. As Miles mentioned, it's all in the cloud. There's no software for you to install at all. You have a single point to log in, and based on your user credentials, it'll get you into your environment and your data, and you can run it from any browser anywhere in the world. So regardless if you have people working from their home across the street or across town, or if you have people in an office in China or Europe, they can all log in and access it and have all the data real time. Don't have to have any servers, no RDP connection, nothing like that. Just log into a browser, boom, you're in, and you can start processing. So back to you, Miles.
Oh no, it's going to stay with you here.
Oh, sorry.
That's great, Victor.
No, so this is one of the things, this is a story I love to tell, and I think I mentioned it in a couple other webinars. One of my biggest successes was a company in Seattle where we implemented, at the time was Dynamics Nav and Business Central. They'd been running for about 20 years. They were a printing company, about 35 million in revenue. And with Business Central, we were able to build out a modification on their system that allowed them to track all of their printing expenses because everything was outsourced. And so for the first time in 20 years, they actually had real-time and accurate costing inventory or costing information on their inventory. And what they found was their print sizes were too small. By doubling their print size, standard print runs, they were able to reduce their COGS by 30%. This particular implementation and the system that we implemented saved them so much money that it would actually paid for the licensing and the whole implementation every single year. So every single year, that system was paying for itself in lower costs on their COGS. That's what people talk about when they say a powerful system that you can scale and really grow your business because it gives you better information to make better decisions. Those are the kinds of examples that we're talking about. And I've seen this several times over my career. This was one of the ones that really stood out for me. So it's fun to talk about. Okay, Miles, next screen. So if you want to download this recording to look at this in a little more detail, this gives you a little snapshot of what I would consider a typical BC client. It's considered an SMB product, so small to medium-sized businesses. What we typically see, I say here 25 to 500 employees. Minimum number of users for us to implement is about 10, and that's 10 named users. The user licensing changed a little bit with BC. We see this go into all kinds of industries. I can't even begin to tell you how many I've worked with. A lot of food companies, a lot of manufacturers, from light manufacturing to heavy manufacturing, professional services, financial companies, boat manufacturing. I mean, you name it. It's kind of all over the place. The system is so incredibly flexible just with the base functionality as well as the ability to build small to heavy modifications depending on your need. You can essentially customize it to fit whatever you need. And so it really can fit in almost an unlimited number of industries. What we typically see is if you grow up to like 500 employee or 500 user range and you get to over 200 million in revenue, that's where you kind of want to look at maybe an F&O solution. That's kind of that gray area, or depending on your particular business and industry, if you have a lot of transactions, you might want to upscale to the F&O more enterprise solution. But if you're really in that SMB market, Business Central is a great fit for you. And we have a whole suite of functionality plus ISV solutions to tweak it to your needs. Next slide, please. So we're going to really go off on a limb here. So my career is a little different because I was in consulting for a long time. And then when my wife and I started a family, I took a job and ended up working at a couple different nav end users. And then now that our boys are older, I've gotten back into consulting, which I really enjoy consulting. But when I was working as a IT director at an end user, I'd watch these webinars and I always think, I actually want to see the system. Like, I want to see what you're talking about. I don't want people to just talk about business value. I want to see it. And so marketing team was like sort of nervous about this, but I said, I think we can make this work. We're actually going to do a live demo, right? I'm going to walk in and show you how to do some basic stuff in Business Central, just like basic things, just to give you a sense of what we're talking about, what it looks like, how does it work. And this is going to be real time. So you're going to actually see me in a demo environment processing transactions. So Miles, can you see my screen? Is that coming across okay?
Sure is.
Okay. So this is the basic screen for Business Central. So when you log into BC, I'm still getting some background noise. I don't know, can we ask people to mute their microphone, please? When you log into BC, you log into a single URL, and then based on your username and password, you're able to log in and you'll be able to access your data. You can set up multiple companies. I created one for our demo today here. What you can see is we have a series of menus across the top where we can get to specific functions. We have some bookmarks here. I'm going to talk about those in just a minute. And then we have a whole bunch of things you can do on the screen here. We can give you some quick references here on open orders, quotes, invoices. We can embed Power BI reports and dashboards into the screen. This is all what's called a role. And we have about 25 roles that come out of the box that you can set up for your users and assign to them. And each one will give them different information on their initial home screen. But then we can also modify these if there's if you want something changed or if you want a custom role for your particular users. Now, the thing I really like about BC that was a big change from prior versions when they went to the SaaS environment are these bookmarks. I love these bookmarks. So you notice this bookmark over here, I have one for general journals, and this takes me right to the general journal screen. This is completely customizable by me. I can control this. So you notice this little bookmark flag up here, which is filled in. If I uncheck that, boop, and I go back to my main screen, you notice the general journals are not there anymore. Now, let's say I hit that by accident, like, oops, wait a minute, I actually do want general journals as my bookmarks. I come up here and do a search on the search button, which is the second thing I like the best about this new version is the search bar. And here you can see it's starting to do what's called an intelligent search. So the more times I search, the better these listings get. You notice it took me right to general journals. Like over time, as I do a search and I select an option, it starts to learn what kind of things I'm looking for when I do a search. Because what it actually found was there's actually 17 items that have general either to start with or somewhere in the name. But since my own personal history with the system, it knows these are the 3 that I typically go to, so that's what it gives me first. Now I can go to general journals from here, but watch this, I can actually re-bookmark this or bookmark it right from my search screen. And when I go back, now it's added to my bookmarks. And the reason I love this is, you know, when I've worked with over 100 companies with 50 different implementations, and one of the things I can tell you is the quote typical user unquote uses between 4 to 6 things almost 90% of the time. And you can bookmark those 4 to 6 things right here. So when you log in on your home screen, it takes you right to what you need and what you want to use 90% of the time right there. It's beautiful. I love it.
Hey, so Victor.
Yeah.
So each user who uses a different set of functionality, in fact, each organization uses things more frequently, essentially is going to have a tailored view, eliminating the clutter for things they just don't use hardly ever or never.
Exactly right. Yep. And this is completely modifiable by me as an end user. And what you'll notice is each person based on their user account will have a different list of bookmarks and they can modify that. Frequently what we'll do is we'll start off, like I've had a couple clients where they want every employee to have the same 3 items in their bookmark. So we can create a standard splash screen or home screen just for those 3. But then the user can add or modify or change whatever bookmarks they want that they particularly need under their personalization and only for them. So they're the only ones who see and can control those. Yeah, so great point, Miles. Thank you for mentioning that. Okay, so here's something I want to show you. Another great feature, probably my 3rd favorite feature in Business Central that they came out with. So here you'll notice I'm looking through my chart of accounts. And I've got account, description, and the balance. So let's say I'm looking at this and I want to modify my chart of accounts. And there's this function that you can do here called, or there's open in Excel and edit in Excel. I'm going to show you the edit in Excel. I'll come back to the open in Excel in just a minute. So when you hit this edit in Excel, it's going to open an Excel spreadsheet. It looks like this. And you notice it has a little special Microsoft Dynamics window over out here on the side. Now look at this, it opened with my chart of accounts in the Excel spreadsheet, and every single cell in the spreadsheet is linked back to a cell in a row in the database, right? So let's say I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, I want to edit my chart of accounts, and I want that to be savings account, Victor personal, right? Because let's say I'm the owner of the company and that's my personal savings account that I have my accountant manage for me. Not that that ever happens, right? But so now I come down here and one of the functions is publish. And you notice it says publishing, one update, publishing successful. And now I come back here and refresh my chart of accounts screen with the fresh data, and there it is. Savings account, personal, Victor personal.
Hey, Victor.
Yeah.
So it looked like you're opening a full version of Excel. So would one assume that they could do sophisticated things like pivot tables from there?
Yeah, let me show you that in just a second. So actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this off. Let's say, you know what, I actually didn't want that change. And then I go to publish. And now I go back to Business Central and reopen to refresh. And now you can see that's gone. Now that's a great point, because let's say I'm looking at my accounts payable. And this is that second function, which is the open in Excel. And I'm looking at my accounts payable and I think, wow, that number doesn't look right. I want to check to see what's in there. But you can see there's a lot of records in here. So let's say I want to take that, and now I can do the other function, which is open in Excel. And that's going to open an Excel spreadsheet. It's going to look a little different because this is going to look like just a regular Excel spreadsheet. Oop, and it opened on my other window. It always does that during a demo. I don't know why. But now I've got an Excel spreadsheet with all of those fields from the GL entry. And now this is just a regular Excel spreadsheet. And if I wanted to, I could create a pivot table, start analyzing that data to try to figure out where those numbers came from to make sure that there wasn't any mistakes, right? Again, this is something that's been incredibly popular with accountants when we implement Business Central at a new client. Now, let me show you another great feature that I really like about Business Central. And again, this has to do with Excel spreadsheets. And what I'm going to show you now is from the general journals. Here's my general journal. And so you notice I've got document type, document number, account type, boom, 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 dollar amount, right? Now, one of the things I want to mention is there's all different kinds of ways that we can modify Business Central. So for myself personally, I just like seeing a dollar amount field. And so when I'm entering a journal, if it's a debit, I just put it in as a positive number. Whereas if it's a credit, I put it in as a negative number. That's the way I like it. I just like having one column, debits and credits. Now, we actually do have in the background columns for debit and credit. And so I can't tell you how many different variations I've seen. Some people like to see just the amount field, like I said here. Some people like to have the debit and credit columns where it's debit and credit as two different columns, like a traditional ledger. Some people like to have all three. So the amount and the debits and credit columns to view. You can actually design that however you want. Now, the thing I really like about this new journal screen is, let's say you got a month-end process where you have all these Excel spreadsheets that you use to determine your month-end entries, right? And we've had this come up with a lot of times with customers. They say, we've been using this same spreadsheet on GP or this same spreadsheet on SL or whatever your legacy system is. We have this whole process where we do all this analysis in Excel and everyone signs off on it. And this is what my Excel template looks like. I'm like, you know what, that's great. We'll take that general journal screen, modify it to fit your Excel spreadsheet. And then once you have your entries ready to go, all you have to do is copy. I come back to my journal screen here and paste. And boom, there you go. They're all in there, even with the comments and everything.
Are there any limitations on that, Victor? Like, I can see lots and lots of journal entries needing to be put in there.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So this copy and paste function generally works great. If you have maybe up to 200 or 300 entries per month. If you get beyond that, it does start to get a little convoluted because it is doing some data validation as you're pasting. And so it could get halfway through, find a mistake, like maybe the fields are in the wrong order, and then it would stop. So if you're doing, say, more than 500 records at a time, we have another option where you can, there's what we call a configuration package, where you can grab an Excel spreadsheet, it'll pull it into a holding table, and you can validate it, and it'll tell you if you have any errors, and then you can either fix them there or fix them in your spreadsheet and re-import them. And then if everything's good, then you can push it into your journal and then post it. So again, we have multiple ways depending on your particular business process and how you need to manage that. But long story short, you don't necessarily have to change how you're currently running your business to fit Business Central. We can adapt Business Central to fit your current process to minimize that transition, struggle, pain point, whatever you want to call it, that always happens during a new implementation. So. Okay, so now here's another thing. I'll probably call this maybe the 6th most popular thing in Business Central. So let's go back to our AP example, and I'm looking at this dollar figure, and I'm kind of scanning through there, and I see something that looks out of the ordinary. I'm like, huh, that seems like an unusual number. That's way more than what we usually pay. I want to see where this came from, right? So I come up here to entry, find entries. Now what this is going to do is a specialized search based on the document number. And what it found is across the entire system, it found all these different tables with entries that had this document number in it, which is the posted purchase invoice. So I have a posted purchase invoice. It created 7 GL entries, 3 tax entries, boom, boom, boom. And if I want to, I can click on this. Like everything is linkable. I mean, I always used to say you can get anywhere from anywhere in Business Central. You never end up at the dead end where you have to jump out and go grab a file number or field number. And like everything is linked. And so you can see right here, that entry came from this particular posted purchase invoice. Now, if I had attached a PDF to this document, I'd be able to see it here. I don't have one here, but you could attach the PDF invoice from the vendor right there and be able to see it. And then I could also go back and say, well, let me see that 7 journal entries, like where all did that go? And I can now see all my GL entries for that transaction, what account got hit, boom, boom, boom. Now, this is great for you, for your internal accounting team if you want to go check or verify something. It's also nice if you have an outside accountant or an auditor, because Microsoft allows you one each of an accountant and an auditor license. So you can get actually a free license that you can give to your outside accountant and or your outside auditor, where they can come in and have view access view only access to your accounting information. So in the case of an audit, it usually takes about 20 or 30 minutes to walk an auditor through how to do this research, and then you can let them run and go, and then they don't have to bug you for a whole bunch of paper documents, which you want to get away from anyway, because if you're using the system correctly, everything you need is right there. They can trace it all back and verify all the information. So, okay, let me see. Miles, have we gotten any questions from our participants on any of this? No, doesn't sound like it. I think you're muted, Miles, if you're talking.
I was muted, thank you. No, I don't see any. Let's keep going.
Okay, awesome. Now, talking about journal entries, one of the things that people frequently ask about is, well, we have this external system, like we use Concur, or we use PayPal, or we use this, or I'm sorry, not PayPal, but Paycom for employees. How can I get those journal entries in there? Do I want to pull them into an Excel and copy those? Well, you could pull them into a journal, an Excel spreadsheet, and then copy and paste them into a general journal. The other option we have, though, are all of the applications in the Microsoft Store. So if you come to appsource.microsoft.com, you can create a filter for Dynamics 365 Business Central. And what it's going to show you here are all the add-in applications that have been built by third-party vendors around the world. Right now, you can even refine this a little more carefully if you only want to see things that are maybe valid for North America, for example. But this list is literally changing by the day. These companies have built some kind of special function, had it registered and tested and signed off and confirmed by Microsoft, and Microsoft then published it here. And so let's say, for example, you use Concur for your employee expenses, right? So I come in here and do a search for Concur. And here it takes me right to an add-on that was actually created for Business Central, where it allows you to add an add-on inside of Business Central, like a little function that then integrates with Concur. You put in your admin login rights for Concur in Business Central. It goes connects to Concur. You can pull those expenses in, put them right into an invoice or a journal, however you want to do it, and then post it. So you don't have to even manually touch those. And
so,
there's
Victor, the difficulty level of, say, adding this in would be what?
it kind of depends on the add-on. That's a great question. Customers could actually install some of these on their own, and I've had customers do that for specific functions. What we typically do is you can actually create a sandbox environment. And so what we consider best practices, if you want to do it yourself, go add the ISV or the add-on in the sandbox and test it. And if you like it, you can figure out how to get it set up and running and tested. And then if that works for you, then you can go into your production environment, and now you've actually gone through a full test to know how to get it set up, and you can install it there. Some clients like to do that themselves. Sometimes they ask us for help. Usually they end up asking us for help on that. And then if you don't like it, or at some future date, if maybe you stop using Concur, then you can uninstall that add-on. All that data will still be there, of course, but you can uninstall the add-on and then go install a different add-on. I actually liken it. It's a little more complex than this, but I actually liken it to installing an app on your phone from the Google or Apple stores. It's actually a very similar process. So, okay, so that's the third way people can get information into their accounting system. And then the one last thing I wanted to show was some of the reporting capabilities. Now we have the ability to do financial reports, and we can set those up and configure them pretty much however you need them. But a lot of times people will say, how do I do a trial balance report? And I'm like, well, you know what, you can run a report, but what I like to do and what I like to show people is this online trial balance screen. So this GL balance is essentially a trial balance screen. It's an online screen, which means it's dynamic, calculates numbers on the fly. And you can actually run down here. What I did is I modified this myself so I could see debit and credit and net change. In this case, I'm looking at the month of September. And then we have a lot of options up here. So I can say, do I want to include or exclude the closing entries? Do I want to see this by day, week, or month? I'm going to go ahead and change this by month just to show you how easy that is. Do I want to see this as net change or balance a date? You can do it either way. Switch back very easily. But then the nice thing here, this is like an online trial balance report, but it's better than a report because again, if you're looking through this and you see something that stands out and say, oh, that looks out of place, I want to figure out where that comes from. Again, you can drill down and look at all of the entries. And if you see like a whole bunch that look normal and then you have one that kind of stands out again, you can go back and do that find entries function and drill down to see where that came from, to see if that was a mistake or if it's something you need to fix. I tell you what, Miles, every time I show this to an accounting group, they say, oh yeah, I don't want to run paper reports anymore. I love this. And then they use
I was going to ask. So this gets rid of the business of having to go share paper.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. If you do this right, you could, well, I would love to say that you can completely eliminate paper, but that's not always possible. But definitely I've seen companies where they eliminate paper by as much as 90%, which is a cost savings, the productivity killer to get up and walk over to a printer. Plus that information is only valid for a couple of minutes. You just spend a whole bunch of trees to find out one little piece of information you can see here. And then, you know, if you make an adjusting entry, this updates real time. So. All right. Well, I think we're getting close to the end of our presentation. How are we doing on time, Miles?
We're doing great on time. We still have a little bit more, but I think that is that the end of the demo portion?
That's the end of my live demonstration, yes.
All right, fantastic. Well, let's continue this forward, and we'll have a Q&A period, and then we'll be a little survey we're going to ask everyone at the end.
Okay, so I'm going to give this back to you.
You may do so. All right, so this is what we showed. Was there anything you wanted to mention else? Oh, wait, sorry, it's not showing. Now it's showing. There we go.
Nope, I covered everything. Thank you.
Okay, fair enough. And anything here, Victor, for you?
No, we're good.
All right, just shows some of the industries where we provided some work. How about the takeaways? Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. My screen is not changing every time I click. So let's fix
Yeah,
that.
I was just going to say it's not. Here we go.
All right. So okay. I'll just repeat myself. Industries we've served.
Yep.
Self-explanatory here. I think probably goes on beyond this as well. I know we have far more. How about the takeaways, Victor?
Yep. So hopefully I was able to successfully show to all of you how easy it is to use this system. User interface can be modified on a per user basis to their specific specifications. We can also modify it. The thing with Microsoft is they provide the source code. So we could actually build simple or complex modifications right inside the source code. What that means is whatever you need, it looks like, when we get done, the modifications look like they actually came from Microsoft as part of the base product. And so what that means is it's very simple because it's all integrated in the system. You don't have to jump around to different screens. We can actually make that as easy and as automated as you want it to be. With a SaaS licensing model, and this is not hyperbole, I've actually done cost benefit analysis for clients over a 5-year time frame and found that the SaaS environment is actually 30% cheaper than buying licenses for an on-premise system and then buying the hardware and the network infrastructure to support all that. And I do a 5-year time frame because most servers have a 5-year life frame. After 5 years, you'd have to replace the servers. So this 30% savings over 5 years will be pretty much over the life of the product. Like I said, you can run it in the browser, tablet, cell phone. We can add on additional functions as needed and then uninstall them as needed. And the customizations that we build for you are just like any other add-on where we can build them. And then at some point in the future, your business model changes. You don't need that modification anymore. We can just uninstall it. You don't have to re-implement. And then we have all kinds of reporting options. There's obviously the reporting capability built into the system for financial reports. There are options for Excel-based reporting where you can link to your Business Central environment, Power BI, and then we also have a data warehouse solution if you want to get some really complex executive dashboards or some very sophisticated analysis for your business.
So Victor, so those customizations that can be added or uninstalled with many other legacy ERP products or other ERP products, those things create a giant headache for organizations to kind of move on in the evolution of technology. Does one assume because this is SaaS and because of the ability to install and uninstall that that's not an issue here?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. So if we, whether it's an ISV add-on or if it's something that we built for you as a customization, 5 years down the road, your business has changed, you don't need it anymore, and you want to go back to base BC, we can uninstall that extension and get you back to the base functionality. And then you have the option of either leaving that data in the system or not. Kind of depending on the scenario, you could go either way. It's really sort of your choice.
All right, I love it, and I love how easy it is to use. The native use of Excel that people already know, and your demo was compelling to me anyway. Yep. We'll see. Thanks. Let's test my clicking skills. So, I mean, if we drill back out to the big picture and kind of synoptics. Role here in our view is like nobody promotes the CIO for keeping the network running. They get recognized for what? Driving innovation. They get recognized and promoted for things as improving customer engagement, making it easier for employees to do their jobs, helping management derive insights from the data in their systems, kind of like Victor was showing, and be able to drill down and report. And so here's how my clicking skills are like. Yeah. So, the way we view helping the CIO or the CFO is this, we can either be a partner that brings the skills and experience to perform innovation, or we can take over the mundane or commodity IT so your staff can focus on innovation. And that's why our offerings span these 8 circles on the right. Some of the services are to manage commodity IT, managing infrastructure like firewalls and servers, make sure the data is backed up, mundane but critically important. Systems are recoverable, disaster, ransomware, insider threats, making sure that the workforce is productive with the IT system, and the other Synoptic services are to deliver things like business intelligence dashboards, migrate workloads to the cloud, or deploy business applications like CRM and ERP, as you saw here today. So for most of our services, including the deployment and configuration of Business Central, we offer ongoing management. We are not in any effort to be once and done and walk away to the next. This is long term. So, and you would want us engaged to be on standby for creating reports, answering questions, and so forth. So we provide a managed service accompaniment option to provide that round the clock support for whatever we may help an organization with. These are, why did it do that? Well,
oh, your clicker's going crazy.
No, yeah, it is, but I think there's an automatic transition that's moving.
There we go.
Yeah, it did. Well, what you saw for a brief moment was an awful lot of customer logos. If you were to pause the recording of this, you could actually zoom in on it. It was not intentional to leave it that way, but a lot across some concentrations in healthcare, financial services, and manufacturing, although we don't market ourselves, and we've helped customers across many industries, including the public sector. With that, there will be a survey at the very end if you stick around, but at this point in time, I'm going to open up to questions from anyone directly to Victor.
Anything?
I was given a message of a question. I don't know where this came from, but while we're waiting, and I may not be able to see all of them. Oh wait, let me just look at the pop-up in this chat thing, just in case I don't want to. Okay. It is essentially, is Business Central HIPAA compliant for the healthcare industry?
Yes, it is. Yeah, there's actually extensive documentation on the Microsoft website. If you just do a Google search on Dynamics 365 Business Central HIPAA, you can see all the certifications there. It has been successfully certified, and there's a lot of healthcare companies that are using it. Yes.
A similar question here on the remanufacturing industry. I think specifically if there's any customizations or line of business tailoring for that.
Yeah. So we have a partnership with a company called Level 7, and they're one of those companies that has an extension in the marketplace, an add-on specifically designed to handle remanufacturing. So if you do all or part of your production process to rebuild or remanufacture parts, where you're taking them apart and maybe you're saving some of the parts, throwing away some of the parts, maybe refurbishing some of the parts, and then putting that back together, we have a solution specifically designed for that we can talk to you about. That actually is becoming more and more common these days. What we found especially is there's a booming industry on refurbishing batteries for electric cars. Those batteries only last 3 or 4 years. They're very expensive. And in some cases, the car manufacturers only support them for a couple of years, and then you're kind of on your own to find a new battery for your car. And so there's a huge and growing market to refurbish those batteries. We've seen a lot of traction there, but this is a common process in like diesel engine industry. I mean, just kind of all over the place. It's very, very fascinating sector of the manufacturing market. Yeah.
Interesting. All right, one more. I'm going to decipher the grammar here. I think the gist of it is like to speak towards the differences to the extent that there's a cloud version versus a on-premise system.
Yeah, so Microsoft does still provide an on-premise version of Business Central. They are not going to support that forever. So what we've seen is like clients that maybe are in very remote locations where they don't have very good internet access, or other situations where maybe they have a lot of concerns over regulation or data security, that they're just not comfortable with the SaaS environment. That is an option, but we don't see very many people going to that. The benefits of the SaaS environment are so big that we see fewer and fewer clients asking about the on-premise environments.
Awesome. I think that is all that I see here. Victor, nice of you enough to put your email so people can ask the expert directly here. I think you did a great job.